Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Monday as we kick off another week. President Trump over the weekend warned of massive bloodshed if Hamas fails to agree to the peace deal hammered out with Israel. We'll have a complete update for you on what's happening in the Middle East. It was a weekend of violence all around the country. A former member of the Chicago Police Department was quoted by the media saying, "I've never been more embarrassed to be a former member of this department." Now, he's talking about federal agents who were pinned in by gangs in the Windy City and had called for backup, and the Chicago Police Department officials told local officers to stand down, not to assist these federal agents. Also, shootings at a South Carolina college and in Montgomery, Alabama, left multiple dead and others wounded.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Returning to the White House late afternoon yesterday, President Trump says that progress is being made toward a historic peace deal to end the war in Gaza.
Deadline for Hamas to release the hostages.
Yeah, we're going to very quickly. We had some very good meetings. The countries of the world, a lot of the countries surrounding Israel, frankly, Muslim, Arab, and many others have had great meetings with Hamas, and it looks like it's working. So we'll wait for a little while, see how it all turns out.
Now, yesterday afternoon, just before the 6 p.m. deadline, the president took to Truth Social, announcing what he called very positive discussions with Hamas and leaders from across the Arab and Muslim world, all working towards a deal to release the hostages and to end the war and finally achieve long-sought peace in the Middle East. Trump says those talks are proceeding rapidly, although the deadline was not met last night. With technical teams meeting today in Egypt to finalize details, he said. He told reporters later in the evening that the first phase of this peace plan could be completed this week. He emphasized time is of the essence, warning that if Hamas fails to act, massive bloodshed will follow, something nobody wants to see. Now, this peace initiative, it was unveiled a few weeks ago, lays out a 20-point plan. It calls for Israel to end its military operations in Gaza, Hamas to fully disarm, and for Gaza's reconstruction under a Palestinian governing body overseen by a U.S.-led international coalition. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly agreed to all of the terms. President Trump in his post stressed that this is Hamas's last chance. He wrote, "If this agreement is not reached, all hell, like no other has seen before, will break out against Hamas." He added, "There will be peace in the Middle East, one way or the other." Now, folks, if this deal holds, and I believe that it will be one of the most consequential peace breakthroughs in my lifetime, at least, in modern history. President Trump's approach echoes his peace through strength philosophy, warning Hamas of catastrophic consequences while also offering a pathway to stability and rebuilding, offering something that they can put their faith in. We've seen the president take on bold diplomatic efforts before, from the Abraham Accords to negotiations with North Korea, and this latest move shows his team believes pressure and opportunity can work hand in hand. We'll see. Hopefully we'll see maybe even today. Certainly this should be in action sometime this week. The clock is ticking, though, and I hope that Hamas understands that. I hope they understand that Donald Trump is just not bluffing here. President Trump says he's monitoring developments personally, and that teams, again, in Egypt and other parts of the world are working to make this happen. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher for Israel, for Palestinian, and for the whole region, for the whole Middle East. If the deal succeeds, it could bring long-awaited relief to civilians caught in the crossfire. If it fails, the president has warned that the response will be swift and overwhelming. We just have to pray that it's upheld, and that those poor hostages who are coming up on 2 years will be acknowledging that anniversary in just a couple of days, actually tomorrow. And it's time for them to come home. It's time for them to be returned to their family. And that's what we have to work for. Now, stirring up national headlines, international headlines, I guess I should say, also is this nutcase climate activist Greta Thunberg. She now claims that she was mistreated in an Israeli jail following her detention aboard a Gaza-bound flotilla earlier this month. Now, this is a real simple message. Greta, if you weren't on the flotilla, you wouldn't have had to be worried about how they treated you in an Israeli jail. They warned you before coming. They warned you before setting sail that you'd be turned around, that you'd be detained. Now, according to reports from The Guardian, citing correspondence from the Swedish Foreign Ministry, Ms. Thunberg told officials she was held for hours on hard surfaces, denied adequate food and water, and even developed rashes she blames on bed bugs. Well, they weren't going to put you in a luxury hotel room for sure. Now, as you can imagine, the Israeli government's firing back, calling these claims brazen lies. Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesperson said last night that all detainees' rights were fully upheld and that Thunberg never made any formal complaint while in custody. They called her story ludicrous and baseless, insisting detainees were given food, water, medical care, and access to legal counsel. In fact, court documents from an October 5th hearing show that Thunberg requested deportation back to Sweden, but did not mention any mistreatment during her testimony. Look, this young lady, from the time she was, when did she start this? When she was about 11 or so? When she made that impassioned speech that got her worldwide recognition? Now she just craves the attention. She craves the attention that the left and the media gives her. Thunberg was among roughly 450 activists, remember, detained after Israel's Navy intercepted the so-called Global Sumud Flotilla, a 42-boat convoy that left Turkey October the 1st, attempting to breach Israel's maritime blockade of Gaza. Now, how stupid is it to think you're going to do that? How stupid is it to think that Israel's just going to let you float right through? The group claimed it was delivering symbolic aid, but Israel saw it differently. National Security Minister Ben Gvir said the flotilla participants were supporters of terrorism, adding he was proud they experienced the same conditions as terrorist detainees. Also, Israeli officials released additional details of the whole affair, saying that one Spanish detainee even bit a female medical worker at the prison they were being held in, underscoring what they described as chaotic behavior among the group. Well, you'd have to be, again, just an idiot if you're on any of those 42 boats and think that you're just going to let Israel's going to let you sail on through and go into Gaza. Now, supporters of Thunberg, they paint a different picture, as you can imagine. One Turkish journalist detained alongside her alleged that Israeli guards dragged Greta by her hair, beat her, and even forced her to kiss the Israeli flag, claims that Israel flatly denies. It's a very stark contrast on one hand, Greta Thunberg's team describing harsh treatment and unsanitary conditions. On the other, Israeli officials standing firm, saying none of it happened and that she's being used as a political pawn to stir outrage. Now, you tell me, which story do you believe? Do you believe Greta Thunberg's, or do you believe the Israeli officials? It's a pretty easy answer, isn't it? I mean, let's not forget, Thunberg's activism is taking an increasingly political turn over the years. She's been highly critical of Israel during the Gaza conflict, often accusing Western nations of complicity. The latest incident, whether exaggerated or not, plays directly into that narrative. It's time for her to be silenced and return to her country and leave Israel and the Gaza Strip. Leave them alone. You know, we're about to get a deal worked out to where the hostages are freed and we can have peace and they can start rebuilding. They don't need Greta Thunberg's help. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. There was a violent weekend this past weekend with just horrendous violence in a lot of different cities around the country. Breaking news out of Chicago, that's just hard to believe, raising some serious questions about their local leadership, their law enforcement cooperation, and just general public safety. In Chicago, I don't think I'd want to live in Chicago right now. I've never wanted to live there to begin with, but especially now. So here's what happened. Over the weekend, more chaos erupted when federal ICE and Border Patrol agents were reportedly rammed and surrounded by protesters on the southwest side of Chicago. Now think about that for a minute. These thugs literally rammed their vehicles into the vehicles of ICE and Border Patrol agents. This wasn't a small skirmish. Law enforcement sources said there were 10 vehicles boxed in the federal agents, and one of the suspects was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Agents say they were trapped and forced to fire defensive shots. Now, here's where it gets very troubling. Fox News obtained internal dispatch messages that they reported on showing Chicago police officers were ordered not to respond. Who issued this order? Their own chief of patrol. The message, verified by multiple sources, said this: no units will respond. Caller is one of approximately 30 armed patrol agents, ICE, who are being surrounded by a large crowd. Now let that sink in. Federal agents boxed in by an angry mob asking for backup, and Chicago PD told to stand down by their superiors. Who does that? What local police department would not assist fellow officers? I don't care what your political beliefs are, what your feelings are on the border and on deportation. But if you have a fellow officer who needs your help, are you going to stand by and let a bunch of thugs potentially kill those officers? The official Chicago Police Department statement tells a different story. The department claimed officers were on scene to maintain safety and traffic patrol, but two longtime Chicago police sources telling Fox, and Fox reporting it, that's flat out false, basically calling the CPD a bunch of liars. One called it they're covering their behinds. Another said they were en route and pulled off the call after being ordered to stand down. They're furious one veteran told Fox. "I've never been more embarrassed to be a former member of the Chicago Police Department," he said. Now, according to the Department of Homeland Security, the suspect, Miramar Martinez, a U.S. citizen, allegedly posted online calling for violence against ICE, saying, and this is a quote, "Hey to all my gang, let's F those MFs up." She reportedly drove herself to the hospital after being shot. Another suspect, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, has been arrested for ramming a federal vehicle. Finally. Federal officials are calling this domestic terrorism, as they should, and that's what it is. Domestic terrorism, and it should be treated as such. And look, if they're Chicago police officers who would not help these federal agents, they should be charged with aiding and abetting. Am I off base here? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com to get the very best deal that you can possibly get. For example, the 6-piece towel set that's on sale right now, normally $69.98. When you use promo code Joey, it's only $39.98. You're going to love the towels. They're the most soft, the most absorbent towels you will ever own. So go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey to get a great deal. And again, leave me a message on the MyPillow message line on what you think. Am I off base when I say that a police officer who does not help assist a federal officer who is being literally detained like this by a bunch of thugs, if you stand by and let it happen, are you not aiding and abetting federal authorities? It is domestic terrorism. The U.S. Attorney's Office released a statement saying, "We will investigate and prosecute all those who assault or obstruct federal law enforcement, including public officials, to the full extent of the law." So maybe they are. Meanwhile, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who is accusing the Trump administration of aggression against Illinois citizens, that's right. The governor is blaming the feds, not the mob that were surrounding the federal officers. And keep in mind, Chicago is a sanctuary city. So that kind of explains some of this. ICE recently launched Operation Midway Blitz, targeting criminal illegal aliens who flock there because of their sanctuary policies. Federal officials say that these violent protests are a direct result of local leaders protecting illegals while undermining federal law enforcement and federal laws. Folks, this is what happens when politics gets in the way of public safety. You got federal agents under attack, armed mobs in the street, and local police told to stand down. That's not just dangerous, it's dereliction of duty. We're seeing this play out across America now. Local leaders defying federal law, refusing to cooperate, and emboldening chaos because they hate Donald Trump, because they disagree with his policy on deportation, on securing the border. They don't care that the American people elected Donald Trump last year to do just this. The bottom line is, our men and women in law enforcement, whether ICE, Border Patrol, local police, they need support, not politics. Don't drag law enforcement into the politics. You can't ask them to risk their lives 1 minute and then hang them out to dry the next. You agree? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. I'm sorry that today is focused on so much violence. I do actually have a nice positive story I'm going to share with you before the end of the show. Sadly, Chicago was not the only city to have violence over the weekend. Sad news out of Orangeburg, South Carolina, where a night of homecoming celebration turned to tragedy at South Carolina State University. Saturday night, during what should have been a weekend full of pride, community, and South Carolina State Bulldog spirit, gunfire erupted not once, but twice, 2 different instances of gunfire on this campus. Now, according to university officials, the first shooting happened near the Eugene Suites student housing complex. And then a second shooting followed soon after, though investigators haven't yet said where or when. You may have gotten the news alert Saturday night that the campus was on lockdown. That was our first indication that something had gone badly wrong. And as of yesterday, It remains secured, accessible only to students, staff, and law enforcement. And now we've learned the devastating news. One young woman is dead. 2 others were injured. The victim has been identified as 19-year-old Jalea Butler from Saluda, South Carolina, and she wasn't even a student at South Carolina State College. She wasn't even a student. She was a visitor there for the weekend's homecoming festivities. According to the report, she was rushed to MUSC Health Orangeburg, where sadly she was pronounced dead. Another young man was airlifted to a trauma center after being shot. His condition hasn't been updated. A third person, another visitor, was injured while running from the gunfire. Again, none of the 3 victims were students. University President Alexander Conyers called the violence senseless, saying, quote, "We extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the young woman who lost her life. We're cooperating fully with law enforcement." Classes are canceled today. All homecoming events were called off, and the campus, again, remained closed to outsiders. Parents, by the way, if you have someone there, parents or family can check on their loved ones by calling the school's public safety line at 803-536-7188. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division has taken over the investigation. No arrest yet, no word on suspects, no clear motive. Again, officials say that they had prepared for a safe weekend. They had extra security, evidently, just because of the things that have happened over the last few weeks. They were working with SLED, Orangeburg Police, the Sheriff's Office in Orangeburg County, and other agencies. They had added extra officers. They had controlled entry points and had enhanced monitoring. But even with those precautions, the violence still struck. And I think that's just kind of tells you that in any public space like this, regardless of how hard you try, it's not always going to be safe in today's climate. If there's someone wanting to cause chaos, if there's someone who's wanting to hurt others, unfortunately, quite often they can find a way to do it. They can find a way around all the security in the world. Counseling services, we're told, are being offered through the school's counseling and self-development center. As you can imagine, reaction from across the state and nation poured in. Senator Tim Scott saying homecoming is meant to be a time of celebration. My heart goes out to the Bulldog community. Congresswoman Nancy Mace called it heartbreaking and asked South Carolinians to pray for the victims and their families. Congressman James Clyburn, himself a South Carolina State alumnus, called it a horrific tragedy, saying the epidemic of gun violence continues to take too heavy a toll on our communities. This shooting, of course, comes just weeks after a false alarm at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, where panic was fueled by reports of gunfire. It turned out that the student did not even have a gun. But this is a reminder of just how fragile that sense of safety has become on our school campuses. It shouldn't be this way, but it's reality. Our universities should be safe havens, places where students and parents can send their kids to learn, a place of celebration, a place of community where kids can learn but have a good time and meet lifelong friends. No parent should have to get that phone call. No student should have to dive for cover during homecoming. It's just that simple. Again, we don't know the motive yet. We don't know the full story yet. But what we do know is that a young life was lost and a community is hurting. Let's pray for Jalea Butler's family, for the 2 others who are recovering, and for every student who now feels a little less safe returning to class, either on South Carolina State College or any other school around the country. And let's demand from our leaders, local police, state lawmakers, local county councilmen, work together to make campuses secure, not just with policies, but with presence, partnerships, and accountability. That's all that's ever going to work. Now, this wasn't the only shooting over the weekend. 2 people were killed and 12 others wounded in Montgomery, Alabama, Saturday night, as two rival groups started indiscriminately spraying bullets at each other in the middle of a crowd in the state capital's downtown. I mean, it just seems crazy. Now, think about some of the innocent bystanders who are downtown in Montgomery just having a nice evening out, and suddenly gunshots erupt. Montgomery Police Department Chief James Grayboys said at a Sunday afternoon press conference that the shootout started as a result of an individual who we believe was targeted, prompting multiple people in the crowd to draw their own weapons and start firing. 7 of the victims are teenagers. 5 of those shot are facing life-threatening injuries, according to authorities. At least 2 victims in the shooting were armed. Grayboys said multiple calibers of ammo were used and that multiple weapons were recovered at the scene. Now, I got to ask you, when a group of teenagers are gathered together in downtown Montgomery, Alabama, and they all have guns like this, they didn't show up just to have fun. You agree? They showed up for trouble. I mean, why do a bunch of kids, teenagers, they're too young for their names to be released, so we're going to assume they're under 18. Why do a bunch of kids show up in a downtown anywhere that armed like this? It's crazy. The victims killed in the shooting have been identified as Jeremiah Morris, 17, and 43-year-old Shalonda Williams. The massacre happened in the city's busy tourist district downtown just after the football game between Tuskegee University and Morehouse College, 2 historically black universities in the state. Reed told reporters yesterday that the shooting had no connection to the football game. But it is kind of odd, isn't it, that we had a shooting at South Carolina State College, 2 shootings, an all-black or traditionally black college in South Carolina, and then you've got 2 historically black universities in the state of Alabama, and you've got shootings there as well. Evidently, this chaos escalated into a running gun battle that saw these kids whose weapons had very high-capacity magazines, they're reporting, firing wildly into a crowd, hitting bystanders. They didn't care who you were. I mean, this was just a horrendous act. Grayboy said that the department had been questioning multiple victims, and the very complex investigation is underway, including a mass assortment of local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and ATF. He said this was very avoidable. The individuals responsible for this carried the weapons into the crowd. They could have walked away from what was happening, but they did not. Well, it's because they're a bunch of teenagers. And you know how teenagers are. Their pride gets in the way. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed, speaking forcefully at the press conference, said he and the council president contributed cash to bring the reward for tracking down those responsible to $50,000. Let's hope they catch them quickly, and that they throw the book at them, and that they're in jail for a long, long time. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. I do have one story for you today that doesn't involve violence, gunfire. And it's kind of a positive story in a way. It's about a California coffee shop owner who says that her business was flooded with righteous people. That's a quote from her. After coming under fire, she came under fire for supporting Charlie Kirk. Following the assassination of the Turning Point USA founder, Invita Cafe in Rancho Santa Fe, California, placed stickers on its coffee cups honoring Charlie Kirk. So you see, not everything in California is bad necessarily. Some of the response was. Owner Sarah DeLuca told Fox News that she didn't think twice about putting the stickers on the cups beginning the Friday after Charlie Kirk's death. She said, when Israel went to war, we put on Israel stickers and started to support some of the IDF. I would say that when I was like, let's be courageous. But with Charlie, we had hosted him. We had met him. We've met Erica, referring, of course, to Charlie Kirk's wife. DeLuca said she didn't even think it could be controversial. She said, maybe it's my ignorance. It didn't even cross my mind that somebody could have some sort of issue with somebody being murdered. Well, maybe she was a bit naive. DeLuca printed round white stickers with the words, "Thank you, Charlie Kirk. We love you," written on them. She went on to say, we've supported him for many, many years, but baristas told her the cafe's phones were ringing off the hook with people saying horrible and horrible things. We ended up having to shut down our Google page and Yelp page because we were getting an insane amount of one-star reviews, she said. And this is how the left does this. The left can attack your business with horrible reviews online that will try to run business away from you. And this is what they do. This was a concerted effort to try to shut her down because she supported Charlie Kirk. She said that what kept her calm was her San Diego community and her church, Awaken, which showed up a few days later, she said. DeLuca said her small boutique coffee shop was soon packed with people waiting 30 to 45 minutes in line. So see, I told you there was a positive aspect here. It was a bad story for her initially, but people rallied around her. People from church, people of faith who also supported Charlie Kirk's message thought, we can't let this business be closed by a bunch of lefties. DeLuca said her small boutique coffee shop just had more business than she had ever seen before. She said, we didn't have any haters show up. It was only the righteous showing up, just God-fearing people who are like, thank you for what you're doing. Charlie would be proud. And yes, he would. The support came from not just her community, but across the nation. Invita Cafe opened 9 years ago. It was inspired by DeLuca's Italian family. She said the idea was kind of to create a space where espresso is the magnet that unites people, and it brings the community together and brings traditions I grew up with here in California. She said that she believes God is all behind this. She said, this is insane, but I think Charlie would have been proud. So kudos to the community who rallied around this Christian woman to save her coffee shop. Now, meanwhile, you know, the big boy in the coffee business, Starbucks, has had instances to where they refused to even write Charlie's name on a cup of coffee. They've had some of their lefty baristas, probably some of their unionized baristas, who would refuse to write his name on a cup of coffee because they didn't like him. And people were ordering. Evidently, Charlie had a favorite Starbucks coffee that he always ordered. So what kind of response do they get? And this isn't just because of how they have treated some customers of Charlie's, but just how they treat people in general. Over 50 Starbucks locations in the New York City closed down quickly without warning, leaving both employees and landlords confused, according to the New York Post. Now, I'm sorry for those employees. Although if they were treating customers badly, they had it coming. I'm sorry for the landlords. Being a landlord myself, having someone close business and moving out, I know how that feels. Here's what we know. Starbucks announced that over 400 stores would be closed in September, and they were. Included in those hundreds of stores were 54 Starbucks in New York City. This being reported on by the New York Post, of course. Not only have the coffee shops been closed, but they were closed with little to no notice to the landlords, according to some of the leasing agents. Newmark Retail Vice Chairman Jeffrey Roseman told the New York Post they literally put signs in windows overnight without telling us and their landlords and the building managers. There was no warning, no heads up. The company also failed to offer replacement jobs to city workers affected by the closures. The city's Fair Work Week law dictates that employees from closing stores must be offered a job at a location in the same borough. Of course, New York would have some type of law like that. Those employees are also entitled to first choice of any job openings in the vicinity of their original job, and there'll probably be lots of lawsuits filed, and I'm sure the union will get involved because I suspect all of the employees in New York Starbucks are probably unionized. And according to the Post story, of course, a letter was sent from New York City officials to Starbucks regarding the labor laws. DCWP Commissioner Vilda Vera Mayuga wrote in the letter, Starbucks appears poised to violate its legal obligations to employees in New York City locations. Starbucks has had until Friday to explain how it will comply with the city's labor laws. I have no idea what happened or if they reached out to the city of New York. Now, again, I hate for anybody to lose their job. I hate that these businesses close. I hate that the landlords are going to have to look for new tenants. But this is typical of a business who has no regard for all of their customers, who allows their employees to get so involved politically, and they wear it on their sleeves. It's the reason I stopped going to Starbucks. I used to love Starbucks. I used to go to Starbucks all the time. I haven't been in years, unless I have to. I mean, there's been occasion when I was traveling and Starbucks was the only choice in an airport. But Starbucks has just allowed their employees to become so politically involved. I mean, look at in South Carolina, we're not a union state. We have very few unions. But yet, remember all the ruckus when some of the employees of Starbucks and locally in the upstate of South Carolina were closed down for a day or two or whatever because they wanted to unionize. Yet some of the employees just wanted their job, and they didn't want to get involved in employee politics like they did. It was a mess, and some of the Starbucks are unionized now. And the ones that are unionized, if you are a Starbucks fan, you should stop going. You should just stop going to the union. Find one that's not unionized, because that's what's wrong with these Starbucks locations. But it's just an example of you have this lady who's a locally owned coffee shop who is beloved by the community she serves, and that community's not going to let her suffer. Yet you got this big company that people just don't care because of their politics, and hey, they may close more stores before the end of the year. Love to get your feedback. You can text me. You can email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. I love to get your messages. And let me know, am I off base on Starbucks? I mean, don't you think that we should just be able to get a good cup of coffee from a business and not have to worry about politics? Just be able to go to a coffee shop and talk with people and enjoy the fellowship. Sitting around a good cup of brew. But no, for some reason, the left has taken over Starbucks. And I'm sorry that they're having the stores closed, but when you allow this to happen, it's what happens to your business. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher. Mike's back in this week. Bill Frady, Charlie James, we're back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee. Doesn't have to be a Starbucks. And more of Sunrise Carolina. Till then, folks, remember, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.